Hey, everybody, it's Chris Whitehead and Lonnie Robinson. We're happy to have you here again for our next podcast. And today is a really good subject. Lonnie's going to be talking about the top 12 things that you should have already been considering coming into 2020 in order to grow your business the best. And, you know, it's kind of like for me, take what you like and leave the rest, but you better make sure your ears are open, because as Lonnie and I were preparing for this meeting, quite honestly, I was sitting here taking notes. Here we are 7 years later, and I'm still sitting down talking to my best friend and my business partner, and I'm taking notes, how to apply them more effectively to my own business. And so I highly recommend that you bring out a pad, you bring out a pen, and you jot these 12 things down and leave space underneath each one of them so that you can highlight some quick bullet point notes that you can flesh out later. And I'm telling you, if you're trying to build, or if you are in the process of building a real business, I can attest to you that these steps are important, because I too left space underneath each one of them and jotted down some notes and some ideas that I can bring back to my team in order to make sure that we are fully functional moving into 2020. So with that being said, Lonnie, welcome.
Hey man, how's it going?
It's great, bro.
How's your year going so far?
Well, we talked about it yesterday. We had our marketing meeting. And my 2020, I feel like I'm holding on to a rocket ship. Hair's blowing back. At least I still got some. And man, we are absolutely, we tripled last year, and
Wow.
we're already doubling in the month of January our numbers last year. So I don't know if that means we're 6Xing or from where we were at the beginning of 2020 last year, but we're moving really fast, and we have a lot of moving parts going on. Pardon me. And people are having to take on new roles, and that allows for mistakes to happen. So we're just trying to make sure that we have all the pieces in place, all the people in place, so that when customers have issues, when clients call in, that just nothing's missed, because the bigger the machine gets, the more complex it gets.
Yes.
And but I tell you what, I mean, we're going to talk about it. You're going to talk about it a little bit, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm so stinking excited about the growth that we're having, what you and I are doing online, as well as what's happening offline. And this is going to be the year. This is going to be a defining year. And I think it's awesome that the things that you're going to share today and that we're going to talk about today, those are the exact things that we're in the process or have already implemented. So if you want to talk to a business that's absolutely already growing and the things that they're doing in the trenches to make it happen, that's why we have smart marketing, et cetera, right?
That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So what was the impetus of you creating these 12 things? Like what brought these specific 12 about?
Well, here's some things that and congratulations on your success too, man. It's so
You're
great.
part of it.
Yeah. Thank you.
So thank you.
I'm enjoying this journey.
You.
Sure thing. So what created this drive to want to speak to it is that we have clients that right around November, let's call it Thanksgiving time, right around that time is when they start to slow down. They get into holiday, festive mode, vacation mode, any one of those things or a combination of all. They get into that mode, and their business slows down, their mindset slows down from the focus of their business. They tend to say, hey, I'm going to take a break because next year is going to be my year. And it's kind of it's really funny because it's like, I was looking at a meme one time. It was it T.I. He's sitting there in a chair and he's leaning back and he's saying, what are you celebrating? You know, and basically, as you are, I am the total opposite, because I'm not celebrating anything in the most productive, opportune time to create that launch pad for an excellent year, a highly profitable year. That's the last thing I'm doing. While I do recognize Thanksgiving, it's a great time to spend time with family and friends and reflect on being thankful. And I certainly recognize the holidays, whatever holidays you celebrate near the end of the year, that's your preference, and I respect them. However, you got to maintain a consciousness that we are getting ready to go into a year with great expectations. So there is a prep time that has to be recognized and understood and implemented in order to do that.
Well, here's the thing, if I can interject really quick.
Sure.
You know, I remember, so again, this is what we were doing as we were talking earlier. I remember when I had years that Thanksgiving came, and, you know, for us, we celebrate Christmas and then we celebrate New Year. And in the remodeling industry, you know, typically it's pretty slow. Mm-hmm. And I was very happy to celebrate those times because I didn't have anything else going on. Right. And I really didn't have an idea of what was going to be new next year either. So why not take the time off? But I'll tell you this, if you're in the process of sometime around September, October, coming into November, and you're still going just, you know, they're tagged to the wall, you're going as hard as you can, and you're mining gold, and everywhere you go, it's just popping up everywhere. You start getting kind of excited for the holidays to kind of die down a little bit so you can just get some order back to this thing so you can start, you know, harvesting again. And you also start thinking about, man, if I could do that last year, if I were just a bit more organized, if I just did things just a little bit better, I could take my time of the confusion that I was in last year, understand that, and build new systems. And so you get excited. I mean, because it truly, we had our kickoff meeting. We had our kickoff meeting for my business, my offline business the other day, and we identified that we're excited to sit down and nail these things down so that going forward, everybody's working in the same direction. But I remember those years when whatever. And I think the biggest thing is I didn't know what I didn't know, and I didn't know how that was going to change. And that's what I appreciate about today. You know, these 12 things, nobody's going to do all 12 of them at once, but it gives you a roadmap of how you can move forward and build an actual business, which is something you're going to talk about too, I think.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It lets you know where you are, where you sit on the totem pole of things. And having these 12 things in front of you, and like Kris said, please grab a pen and a pad, because don't sit here and say, hey, well, I can hit the recording, I can go back and watch that, because you won't. You won't. Chances are life happens, right? One of our mentors, Cedric Penn, said, I'll take a dull pencil over a sharp mind any day.
Yes, sir.
So go find that dull pencil, that crayon.
Write it on the wall. Do what you got.
Write it on the wall. All those things. But I want you to really grasp this information. So we're going to start with number one. And number one is make your lead magnets more meaningful. Did I say magnets? Did I say it correctly?
Magnets. You did it right.
Yeah, you know, it's that and salmon I have the biggest problems with. Did I say salmon correctly?
No, you didn't. It's salmon.
Salmon, I know it's salmon.
You need to play that for them one day.
Yeah, I will do that. So we do have some offline listeners who have brick and mortar businesses in the brick and mortar world, but in the click and order world, this is relative as well. So it applies to both. Make your lead magnets more meaningful. And what I mean by that is a lot of times we're in such a desperate mode to get the lead, to get that person on our list. You know, if you have an online business, you're always talking about the list, the money's in the list, the money's in the list. Actually, the money is not only in the list, it's what you do with that list. What are your intentions? Where are you taking that list? As Kris would say, what's the next step? Mm-hmm. Now that you've got that lead, what happens next? And a lot of times there's a breakdown in the connection of your lead simply because your lead magnet doesn't do everything that it should be designed to do. And here's what I mean. A lot of times we're building a list for the purpose of building a list, for the purpose of making some money, meaning we can spam them with offers and special invitations to buy my stuff. That's not the way it works, because they have to see beyond that lead magnet. And if that lead magnet is just something that anyone could have created, and it doesn't speak to the problems that they're faced with, the obstacles and the hurdles that they're attempting to overcome, if it doesn't show them how to do that, there is no next step. Well, I guess the next step would be they're going to unsubscribe, or they're going to just ignore you. What's your take on that?
Absolutely. You know, I think we were talking about it earlier. If, you know, there's a certain podcast I've been listening to, and for a while I was actually listening to it and was getting some value out of it. But now it's become kind of more of an entertainment thing. And not that I don't appreciate that, but, you know, I'm hungry to be inspired. I'm hungry for the nuggets. And if I have to listen for 2 or 3 hours before I get any, my mind just starts wandering. And so if somebody's not, you know, if the lead magnet that somebody's creating for me isn't concisely showing me why I should move to the next step, and it doesn't have to be complicated. I go through lead magnets online all the time. I'm buying stuff all the time. And the lead magnet is the thing that goes, oh, I think I want that. And then the funnel that I follow through, I'm just willing to do it. But if for some reason it has a disconnect, if some reason it sounds like it might be shady, I'll just click off and go find something else. There's a million ways to get the same thing nowadays.
Absolutely. And so it's critical that you invest that time into that lead magnet. You want to think about your audience. You want to think about what their problems are, what their questions are. How do you answer them? How do you provide those solutions and those answers? Because if you want to become the authority, you have to be the authority in the minds of your audience. And it doesn't start with the sale. It starts with the introduction. It starts with when you give them permission to knock on that door and unlock and open that door. You want to provide them with the ultimate experience from the moment they step inside. And a lot of people aren't doing that. And it does become, like you said, it becomes a disconnect. So you want to make sure you do that. Spend time diving into your lead magnet. Think about your audience. Think about what they're experiencing. Think about how you can help them, and just give them the help right from the front. You don't want to tease them into, well, if you think, so we've identified your problem, but there is a solution. But in order to get that, you've got to buy my stuff. No, you want to give them the solution and then offer to help them. And they will instinctively want to buy it. And a lot of times that's not happening. So make your lead magnet more meaningful. Number 2, create content for social media. That is so critical. And what I mean by that is you want to create that content that also speaks to who you are, why you're here, and what you can offer your audience, how you can help them. And you have to do that in a way that you are speaking to them from all of the social media platforms. You know, Kris, people ask us all the time, what's the best platform? Well, it's all of them. All of them. I'm going to try to go through these. There's Snapchat, there's LinkedIn, there's Twitter, there's Pinterest, there's Facebook, there's YouTube, and number 8, Instagram. And there's TikTok. People think TikTok is
well, what's your opinion, you know, when somebody says, oh, all of them, do you think it's better to learn each one of them, and because they're all different, and to learn how that market responds? So is it better to start with one, become proficient in it, and then move to the next and move to the next?
So here's what I feel. It's kind of a twofold answer. Yes and yes. And here's what I mean. You want to start with one, but you want to have a presence on all of them. So you want to be able to start with one, get a better understanding of that one. And while you've got that wheel turning, you know, what's it, the plates, the
Yeah.
plate, you got this plate, turn it over here, then you go over here and you turn the next plate and you turn the next plate. You want to get all of them turning. You want to start with the first one, which is primarily Facebook, Instagram next, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, TikTok, Pinterest. You want to have a presence on all of them. And then you want to maximize the one that you hang out at, preferably Facebook. Most people are on Facebook. You're going to find most of your audience on Facebook. They are the 800-pound gorilla in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And what you want to do is you want to get an understanding of the procedures for maximizing each and every one of them. So if you got Facebook dialed in, let's say you're consistently sharing your message on Facebook, you want to turn to Instagram or Twitter or whichever one you choose to be the next one. And you want to start to do that same thing. And here's what I'm doing, and here's what we are doing actually, is we are looking at each one of them. We have a presence on all of them, and we're looking at each one individually, and we are getting a better understanding of how do we make them really work for us.
Yep.
So I encourage,
and that's what I was speaking to with it. Each one has its members react in a different way, and it means that people are assimilating the information in a different way, and it means the way that you put the content out there is important. And the reason I think so is I know from some of our clients we pay attention to it all the time, but I see a lot of people putting out content that they like,
right,
not content that their ideal client would like. And you got to make sure that you're not having a disconnect with people on social media. I mean, it's important to be authentic and share who you are, but if it's not relevant information, it becomes digital noise. And if we're marketing, it's important to be relevant constantly. Otherwise, you're going to annoy people. And part of being relevant is making sure that you're not just spamming your offer constantly to other people. You need to give people an idea of who you are personally and what kind of belief systems you have and all of that. But no one of those things should be the overriding thing.
Right.
It's social media. People are naturally voyeuristic and they want to know a little bit about what's going on. So think of creative ways that you can share those kinds of information on the different platforms. You're not going to talk to people in LinkedIn the way that you talk to them on Facebook.
No.
And you're not going to talk to them on Instagram. You don't have the ability to
no.
the way you do on Facebook. And it's important to know that. So I think as far as creating content for social media, I think everybody knows that. We have specific formulas that we use for it, and we share it inside of our groups. But I think it's important to know that creating content for social media is number 2. It's probably the most important, one of the most important ones out there.
Right. Number 3 is building an SMS system or service. Short messaging service is what SMS stands for. And what you want to be able to do is, you've got 160 characters that you can send to someone in a message via their mobile phone. Now, the really cool thing about that is, and this is what's so baffling. And I got to raise my hand because I was one of the guys who really didn't take that seriously in the past. We're spending so much time. We talked about making sure that your lead magnets are more meaningful, but it doesn't work just by being meaningful enough alone. You got to make sure that those messages get read. You got to make sure they get opened and read and clicked upon. Now, a lot of times when you're looking at email alone, your messages are often missed now. There's so much email. Kris, do you remember, it's just a few short years ago when AOL used to have that little chime and it said, "You've got mail." Man, I used to run to my computer. I don't know about you. I was so excited that somebody took the time to send me a message.
I'll tell you now, I would slap you upside the head if you did that on my email service now.
Could you imagine getting those all day now?
No way.
The bulk of email that you get now?
Right. So, the truth is that everybody opens up their text messages and everybody opens up their Facebook Messenger messages. There are apps out there that are low cost that can help you once you've identified or once people have self-identified that they want more information from you, you've proven this. It is a proven statistic that SMS, text messaging, as well as Facebook Messenger stuff gets read more by more people, which means you're going to have more people that are opting into what you have to offer. Just makes sense.
Yeah, man. And the way to get started with that is, if you have an existing audience, reach out and get their phone number first. So it starts there, and then you want to grow that. A lot of times now I'm seeing people who are taking this seriously. They are putting that telephone number as an option in their forms. So it's in your name and email address and your phone number.
Yep.
Because it allows you to reach out to them. And here's the thing. The statistic is 98% of people open their text messages, because everybody carries their phone with them at all times. And they're going to get your message, and it's not a pattern interrupt. See, when you're dealing with email, you're dealing with a lot of competition. When you're dealing with email, you're dealing with, I hope that my message gets seen. You're dealing with, I hope that now that it's been seen, I hope it gets open. Now that it gets open, I hope that it's acted upon. Let me tell you, there's a one-step action when it comes to SMS. If I send you a message right now, Kris, all you got to do is open it. Because you're going to see it. You're going to be notified. You're going to get that ding or that buzz, and you're going to be notified. So there's so much power there in being able to send someone not only a short message using an SMS, but also using a messaging service on the social media platforms like Facebook. So definitely in 2020 and beyond, definitely use that. You want to use that. Which leads me to the next one, number 4, pay for traffic. Pay for traffic. If you want a guarantee that you're going to get some results, you want to guarantee that your message is going to be seen, pay a service to put people in front of you, because they're going to do that. People say that Facebook ads don't work. People say that Google ads don't work. Media buying doesn't work. Let me tell you, these companies are positioning themselves to do a good job for you. If you've got the right data, if you got the right connection of the people and the product or the message, they're going to do everything in their power to put your message in front of as many people as they can, because that's the only way that they get paid. So you want to pay for traffic. And when I talk about traffic, I'm talking about paying for traffic, social media ads like on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn. Pinterest now has a paid. Did you know Pinterest had a paid ad service? No. Yep, they have a paid. They've jumped into the paid advertising business. There's media buys like newspaper and radio. But I've got this system, and I call it the PAD system. So the system goes like this: pay, analyze, and decide. So you want to pay for traffic, as we said, and you want to analyze your results. You want to look at that data, and then you want to decide. You want to make the decision on what's working, what's not working. And what's working, you want to scale. What's not working, you want to see if there is a chance that it could work. So maybe you're getting subpar results. So you want to figure out how you can scale and tweak that. And you want to make the decision to discard it, to just trash it altogether, especially if it's not working at all for you. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's, and it, the thing that people need to, or at least if I could help, you can't do paid advertising for 4 days and make a decision.
No.
So, make sure that you have enough budget so that you can get enough data so that you can actually make that decision. And again, we have courses that we teach on that kind of stuff. Yeah. But that's probably hey, I spent $150 on ads and I didn't get anything from it. Hey, I spent $500. It's not the amount that you're spending, it's the frequency.
Yes.
And you do have to spend a certain amount, but you have to do it for a specific amount of time to let the AI inside of these programs do their deal to help you get favorable results. Because at the end of the day, look, they want your money for advertising. So they want to give you the result, but you got to know the input that you're putting in there is leading them to the right direction. And then you got to give them time to shake that tree, so to speak, and find, you know, the thread that leads them to the result that gets you to continue to pay them more money. So just don't jump out of the game too quick, I guess.
I totally agree. And find someone that can help you with that. We have resources that we can help you with. If you want to have a conversation about your traffic plan, your paid traffic plan, reach out to us at Smart Marketing Chat. We can have a quick chat with you. It's a Facebook messaging service, as we talked about earlier, and we answer very quickly. See, here's the great thing about being on the Smart Marketing Etc. team is that there's two of us. So if I miss it, I know Kris is going to catch it, and vice versa.
Vice versa, yeah.
Yeah. So number 5, and this one is probably the most important. First of all, I want to say that these are not in any order of importance.
Right.
These are just random 12 specific steps that you need to have in your business. But number 5 is hire a coach. And I want to take that a step beyond just hiring a coach, because people hire coaches and they do nothing with the coach. We've had to, I told Kris, I said, man, I'm starting to feel like a digital bounty hunter. Because we have people that hire us and then we got to go find them. We got to go out and seek them out. It's like, hey, what are you doing? Come back. So not only do you want to hire a coach, but you want to hire a coach with the intention of doing each and everything that they tell you to do. Do what they tell you to do. Because if you don't, you're really wasting your time and you're wasting their time. Because here's the power of hiring a coach. They've done the things that you want to do. They've seen things that you haven't seen. And they're achieving the results that you only dream about. So they can help you. Because like you, they've struggled. They've been through the brick walls that they had to smash through. And that was a process for them. Now that they've reached the other side of that brick wall, they can reach back and pull other people through there in a more simplistic, faster process of getting it done. Hire a coach. What are your thoughts, Coach?
The only thing I'll add to it is you have a choice to make when you hire a coach. You're either going to be the kind of person that's coachable and you want to win, or you're going to be the kind of person that finds the excuses, because coaches are going to push you to your limits. That's how you grow, is by being stretched. So, make the choice that you're willing to be coachable in the process and go into it with an excited attitude and leave with the same attitude. It can be hard work, but when you find people that can help you get the result, a lot of that result is who you become in the process, not so much about these technoid things that you do. They're very important to do, but who you become is what sustains the growth that you're going to have year over year,
Right. I couldn't agree with you more. Number 6, and this is one that I love, that we talk about a lot, and we're doing it with the intention, is to build a tribe.
Right.
So, Kris, I'd like for you to speak on that.
So I think in order for you to build a tribe, first you have to be a part of one. Mm-hmm. I think you not only need to be a part of one, but you need to decide to become a leader inside of that tribe. And you become a leader inside of a tribe by being a giver, not by being a taker. And I think in the process of you learning what that is, you actually learn what it is to be a leader, so that you can then go find your own tribe. And yes, it's responsibility to find a tribe. Yes, it requires you to be a better version of yourself if you don't end up wanting to look like a jerk face over time to people. But again, who you become in the process of finding a tribe is who most of us always want to be anyway.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid when you make mistakes, but be very intentional about who it is you're looking for, and be willing, as you then move from being a really good giver in someone else's tribe to developing your own tribe, remember to continue to serve those people the same way that you served when you were a part of something. You know, one of the saddest things that I see, Lonnie, in the world, because I personally akin it to being enslaved, is watching people willing to do more to grow my business than they're willing to do to grow their own. And, you know, it's like I hand you a salt shaker and you hand the salt shaker back. And so I hand you the salt shaker and you hand the salt shaker. Come on, man. Somebody use the salt, you know, and that's what I see happening a lot. And that's usually a self-image thing. So building a tribe requires you to be bold, and you know, you can talk about being bold all you want, or you can go out there and start doing it. I just decided to start doing it like 20 some years ago, and thank goodness I'm still playing the game, so I'm getting better at it. But you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be intentional. And that's really what I think about building a tribe.
Yeah, and the great thing about a tribe is being able to build those people around you who can not only help you, but you have the responsibility to help them. And a lot of times, when we say we want to be leaders, what we're basically saying is, I want to, if you help me, I'm going to just continue to not think like a leader, but look at you as a leader and help you. It's the funniest thing when you were talking about, I hand you the salt shaker and you hand it back to me, right? You know, we've worked with people who, in the beginning, you hand them the salt shaker and they take the salt shaker and they put the salt on your popcorn.
Right.
When we're trying to teach them, hey, here's how you create your popcorn, and here's the salt that you need to add to it. So for those of who are not into salt, you know, please accept
Himalayan
salt, right? Sea salt. There you go. So it's so important, and there's a step outside. There's a step before that, and it's about creating that community. So a tribe is something that's not built in a day, but a community is something that you can start building now. And then within that community, you're going to find the like-minded people who share your interests, who share your beliefs, and are willing to walk with you and support you and allow you to support them and just continue to move forward. And that was I'm very, very specific about who I have in my tribe, you know, but I'm very broad when it comes to building a community, because you learn a lot about them and you learn a lot about yourself. So you want to go in with the intention of connecting with as many people as you can. And then based on the experiences that you've had with those people, you're able to select the people and be selected by people as to whether or not you're ready to take that next step, which is to be a part of that tribe. Number 7, and this one builds on the tribe. So number 7 is attend local events, attend local live events. And the reason why I say local, I normally would say attend live events. And people think of that when I say attend live events, it means, oh, I've got to go across the globe in order to go to this conference of interest that's going to help move me forward. No, there are local events that are just as powerful that are happening right in your area. And you got to make that intention to go there. You got to make that intention to seek them out, attend these events that are going to help move you forward, move your business forward. And that's where you're going to be able to look for the people that can potentially become part of your community and eventually become part of your tribe. And Kris, I know you've had a lot of experience with this.
Yeah, I have.
Local events.
I mean, and I had lots of years where I did those things and it sucked. I don't have any other way to say it other than, you know, I wasn't finding it. It does still have to do with the personal development part of it. As you change, even how you see opportunity inside of live events changes. It almost seems like magically you start going to events that have more opportunity for you to begin with.
Right.
But it all started with willingness to go out there. Even though I was building online businesses,
Mm-hmm.
staying connected with offline people exponentiated the process of getting to the sale, exponentiated the process of understanding the messaging that I wanted to put out there. Because instead of just talking to people online, I'm talking to human beings face to face, and I'm hearing about the challenges, or I'm watching the nuances of how they present themselves. And it's giving me immediate feedback on how I can present myself, especially online. And the cool part about it is, as you get into what I would call a target rich environment, people want to start to be part of your, at least, community. And then they're willing to become part of your tribe. And so if you have an online opportunity for being in a community and then you go offline, a lot of those offline people will come you'll become friends online,
Right.
you'll become part of your community. And because you have an interpersonal connection with them, they'll be some of the people that champion you. They'll be your cheerleaders. And they might even become your clients. So there's so many benefits to doing it that people don't ever consider. And I think some of it is they don't consider it because they're lazy, honestly. And the other reason they don't consider it is because nobody really talks about it. That's probably the biggest reason, is people don't talk about it. But the biggest movers and shakers I know that are online are offline too.
Oh,
They
yeah,
are
for
offline
sure.
too.
For sure. Absolutely. I think they go hand in hand. I think they go hand in hand. So I encourage you, if you're making the decision to select one or two or 10 of these, that you select local events. You make attending local events a very big part of your experience.
Yep.
It's going to help you grow. It's seriously going to help you learn more about what you do, what other people do. You can learn a lot about what you do by looking at what other people are doing. This is going to be essential to your success. Number 8 is know your product. And here's what I mean by that. Everybody has a product. If something needs to be sold, there needs to be a product. There needs to be something there, a service, something that someone can invest in. Everybody has a product, but everybody who has a product doesn't necessarily have a business. So when I talk about product, I'm not talking about launching a product. I'm talking about launching a business, because your business, your product, your one product can become your business. So it's so important. We see it all the time, especially online in the digital marketing arena. We see marketers they spend all these hours, they spend all these months creating this one product to launch it for 5 days. And then after that product magic has left and transformed into digital dust, they move on to doing it over again. So whether you made $1 or $1 million, you're missing out on the bigger opportunity of transforming that into something that you can use, that can be an everlasting commodity for you. So I don't believe in the product launch in its traditional form. I believe in the business launch of launching a product and using it as a staple for your business. And if you don't believe it works, look at Apple.
Right.
Apple has the iPhone, they've got the iPad, they've got the iMac, they've got the MacBook, they've got Dr. Dre Beats now. But it's although they have all of these products, they've got one business. One business. They're not launching new products. They're relaunching the same products, and it's making it a business for them.
Yeah, and they focused on culture, they focused on brand, they focused on customer service, they focused on their uniqueness in the marketplace, and they hammered down with it until they found their ideal client, and they created loyalty with that client base, and then they just continue to force feed that client base. We're both
Right.
we're both subscribers to it, with new innovative products at a specific time. And I'm sure the upfront cost was like this. But on the back end of things, it's like this, all their profits being made. And,
Right.
and that's building a business. It's not launching a product. It's creating momentum and then continuing to use it to do better and better. I was talking to somebody yesterday, you know, the difference between my income is we've created $1 million a year company to a $2 million a year company. My income's not going to change that much. It's
No.
the amount of effort that I'm going to go through between $1 and $2 million is substantial to the income that I'm going to make. But the processes that are in place for a $2 million a year company will easily create a $10 million a year company. And that's when my income does this. And so it's, do people have short-term or long-term mentality with what they're doing? And if you don't start with the end in mind, we've talked about this a lot. If you don't start with, that's why I'm the what's next guy. Cause I'm always like, well, what's next? What's in and the end? All right, now that I've seen the end and I know where I am now, I can just go from here to there. But if you don't start with the end in mind, you're going to find yourself confused. You're going to find yourself not getting the results that you want. You're going to probably end up pissing off your family or your significant other because they're watching you spin around too. And so even if you don't know that yet, it's okay. Get into a community of people like Smart Marketing, et cetera, that spend time talking about these foundational principles of business, because the amount of time that you spend upfront in making the plan will save you sometimes years and certainly thousands and thousands of dollars in trying to implement something that ultimately doesn't produce the best result for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Number 9 is know your business plan. So when I talk about your business plan, I talk about all the specifics in your business that you need for it to run, the things that you need to understand for it to run. And I have a bonus for our listeners. If you reach out to us on Smart Marketing Chat, go to smartmarketingchat.com and just say, hey, and let's have a quick conversation. I'm going to gift you with the Small Business Success Ecosystem. And it's something I created a few years ago. And the reason why I created it is because I had just gotten into the coaching business, and a lot of my prospects who eventually became clients, they came to me and they said, hey, I really want to understand not only about launching products and creating a brand, but I want to understand the components of a business, because I didn't go to school and I don't understand. I don't have an MBA and I don't know. I want to make sure I'm doing the right thing. So I created the Small Business Success Ecosystem. It's actually, we condensed it down to one poster size graphic, which speaks to most of the components. And I'm sure as I look at it sometimes, Kris, I always say, you know what, I need to add this to it. So I'd love for you to get a copy of that. You can go to smartmarketingchat.com and get a copy of that. But it basically speaks to understanding the growth of your business and what are the things that are very important to help you continue to grow and evolve in your business. What are the foundational things that you need in your business? Like what are the things that should be outsourced, which is going to save you time and make you more money? What are your numbers? What are you spending? What do you have coming in? What do you have going out each and every month and each and every year? What are you forecasting to happen in your business? Standard operating procedures. How do you do things? What is your procedure? What is your system for getting things done in an efficient manner? Who is your team? Who is your team? What is their superpower? And are you tapping into their superpower so that they can live and perform at their highest potential? So important. What are your traffic sources? You've got to know all these components. We talk about in the Small Business Success Ecosystem, we talk about your finances. We talk about your business and its growth. We talk about your team. We call that the engine. We talk about the communities and the members areas that you have where you can deliver your products and services and coaching. We call that the hub. And we talk about the traffic essentials, the things that you need to identify as your main traffic sources, how you're performing on social media, podcasting, and all of those things. I could go on and on, but I'd love for us to have a conversation with you at smartmarketingchat.com. Just say hey, and we'll get that started. We'll send you our small business ecosystem. It's so important to know your numbers. It's so important to have a business plan in place and use that as, if nothing else, a break glass in case of emergency. What are your thoughts, Kris?
Um, it not only is it so important to have, but I'm sure people are listening to it right now and they're like, oh my gosh, that's so overwhelming. It's the reason you hire a coach. Is I was sitting down networking with one of my local networking things again, networking people again, one of the things that Lonnie talked about here. We were talking about standard operating procedure, and I was just talking about this idea of, I've got to create some of these standard operating procedures. And, you know, he has a business that is bigger than mine. And he said, that sounds like something that you have your executive assistant do, which I have. And he says, Kris, let your people do that. You continue to focus on the vision. You continue to focus on pointing people in the right direction. Have them write these standard operating procedures down, and then have a meeting with them and make sure that it still aligns with the vision. And so you can make changes to it. And it just like the light bulb went off in my head. If I hadn't had somebody tell me that, I might have sat there for a long time thinking, when am I going to have time to write this stuff down? And there are people that have been where you've been that can help you do it. But we're at a place in our business where we have to have these things. And you're going to be at a place in your business where you have to have them too. If it's just you right now, if you're a solopreneur, extrapolate what it's like to have these other contractors or subcontractors with you, what it's like to have the employees with you. And then what are the pathways of least resistance to get you the result? Mm-hmm. And all of those things tell you what your numbers are. You know, I can't tell you how many times people have asked me, you know, well, what's the proper markup, you know, on my product or my service? I don't know. What's your overhead? You know, right. What do you want to pay yourself? There's so many things that are involved in that. There is no right one. Right. We live in a marketplace that if you can provide a superior product for the best price, you're supposed to win. That doesn't mean that you have to be the cheapest, but you know, you need to figure out what your unique advantage is, what those numbers are behind it. And if that's something that you don't understand how to do yourself, you need to talk to other people that can help you. And I'm telling you what, that ecosystem that you've created is absolutely amazing. And, you know, people should definitely take us up on that. So I appreciate you offering it, Lonnie.
Hey, you're welcome, man. I think it's so vital. You know, it gives you a initial understanding of not only, you know, where you can be, but where you need to get started.
Yeah.
Because people don't start with a business plan. People say, oh, you know, it's so cool that we're able to have this podcast because we've had so much experience talking with people from all walks of life, from all over the globe, that now we can speak to that and we can address it so that other people understand that, hey, these are the essential things that you need. And we hear people all the time say, yeah, but you know what? I'm just trying this thing out.
Expensive hobby.
Yeah, it's an expensive hobby. Right, that's what it is. So it's important that they have a business success ecosystem that positions them for the success that they should be seeking if they're serious about building a real business. The next one is number 10, and I call this the MAPS system, MAPS system, and it's an acronym. The M stands for message, the A stands for audience, the P stands for product, and the S stands for system. So the great thing about this, Kris, it's a very simplistic way for you to know exactly whether or not you are doing the right thing when it comes to making sales and being able to make sure your product is being delivered and fulfilled. Let's talk about each one of them quickly. We're going to give you a brief overview. We do this training in some of our programs, and we'll talk about those later. But with the message first, let's talk about the message. Your message must be clear and concise to your audience so that they understand that you understand them. And a lot of times we're building products. You spoke to this earlier. We're building products for our benefit, for ourselves, based on what we like and what's going to work for us. and we leave the main equation. We leave the main element out of the equation, and that's our audience. So you've got to be able to identify what is it that they want, why is it that they want it, and how do you deliver it to them in a manner in which they can understand it and they can get a result from it. So the messaging is very important. Next is the audience, and we spoke to the audience because the audience is an essential part of the message. You've got to understand your audience and their pains and their fears and their money. What's their income? Can they afford this? Or is it, again, an expensive hobby? So you got to understand all of that. And you can do that through looking at social media platforms and identifying your audience based on paid advertising. You can do that from asking questions to your existing audience. Remember, we talked about building a community, understanding your community, asking those questions, identifying their conversations, hearing what they aren't saying to you. So when they tell you that, it's important to have a lead magnet, because Lonnie said that you want to make your lead magnets more meaningful. You got to understand that what that means is, how do I best position them to have a lead magnet that's going to get them the result that they want? And that result is not having a list. That result is having a list that will buy their products and services. So you got to hear what they're saying, and you got to take that and say, hey, look, let's take it a step further. And I'm so honored to have Kris on our team, because he is the next step guy. He hears those conversations that they're not having in public or out loud. So when they want to build a list, they're really wanting to make more money. You got to understand that when it comes to your audience. You got to understand that your product needs to be able to provide the audience with that experience, that ultimate experience, and with those solutions. And you got to understand that based on everything that we've heard from our audience, based on their actions, based on what they've told us, we've got to understand that our product needs to be able to address those things. The last thing, and probably the most important part, is having that system in place. You got to be able to, based on everything that you understand from your audience, you got to be able to take them through that system. You got to be able to spoon feed them, hold their hand, go through the journey with them, so that you can guarantee that the product is delivered to them, that it is fulfilled, and it does everything it says that it's going to do, not only for you, but for them, most importantly for them. But here's the thing. Now that I've explained and given you an overview of the MAP system, you got to understand that unlike these bullets here, these 12 things, you can't just choose one or two or three. You got to choose them all, because no one works without the other. And here's what I mean. If you've got a great message and you've got a great audience and you've got your product, it doesn't work without a system. If you got a system and you got a product and you got an audience, it doesn't work without a clear-cut message. So you can take all four of these steps, the message, the audience, the product, and the system, and you can look at them in terms of, if I remove this one, and you can remove any one of them, and you'll see that it just doesn't work anymore. It becomes a missing piece in a puzzle. So this is, along with attending local live events and understanding your business plan, having your MAP system dialed in and identified is critical. And we can help you with that. What do you think? What are your thoughts, Kris?
Yeah, and the truth is that if you have that system, because really it's MAP and then system, but you'll get feedback. If one of them is wrong, you're going to get feedback one way or another. I always think that it's best to have an audience first, maybe an idea of the product that you want, maybe an idea of the message, but it's best to go into an audience and ask questions and learn about that audience, start developing the message, and then that starts developing the product as well. And then the system can be put together afterward. We often find people the other way around, but just usually takes longer to get to market that way.
Mm-hmm.
But there are people that are highly skilled at something and they're like, hey, where is this audience? And we'll help them find that audience. But you're daggone straight. If you do not have maps in order, you're not doing much of anything, and you're certainly not building a business. So I hope that really helps people, because it's really easy to just write it out and say, do I have these things? And if not, at least gives you somewhere you can go with it. So it's brilliant, man.
Thanks, man. So 11 and 12 definitely go together. Number 11 is respect your time. And number 12 is to give yourself permission to say yes and give yourself permission to say no. So respect your time, give yourself permission to say yes and no. And I'll tell you why it's so important. Let's talk about respecting your time, and it will lead into number 12, giving yourself the permission that you desire, that you deserve, actually. Your time is very important. One of my mentors gave me a story one time. He told me a story about people. He said, this is what he said, and he's a multimillionaire. He says, let me explain something to you. He said, time and money don't necessarily occupy the same space at the same time. What you'll notice is people who have a lot of time on their hands don't have a lot of money. And people who have a lot of money don't have a lot of time. And I started to think about what he said. I remember saying, huh? What does that mean? He says, I want you to think about it. And so I took a few days, and during that time, I was privileged to speak to several billionaires, just have a meeting with several billionaires individually. And I can tell you one of them was Ted Leonsis. He owns the Washington Capitals and the Washington Mystics and the Washington Wizards. So he owns multiple sports teams in the sports arena. If you don't know Ted Leonsis, look him up. And one of the things I noticed during our conversation was Ted was looking at his watch. He kept looking at his watch. We had a scheduled appointment, and he looked at his watch. He kept looking at it. And he wasn't looking at it in a disrespectful way. He was looking at it more in a responsible way, a respectful way of, okay, we started at 2, and we're going to finish at 2:30 as we discussed. And when he did that, it made me conscious of my time with him. So it made me maximize that time. So it wasn't a lot of jibber jabber or chatting. It was specifics. I need to understand this. What would you do in this scenario and why? It was specifics. It wasn't a lot of small talk. And he was looking at his watch. So I remember telling my wife, I said, hey, I had a great conversation with Ted. He's a brilliant guy. I see why he's so successful. I said, the funny thing was, he kept looking at his watch. So it kind of made me, it kept me dialed in. And then I thought about that. And I remembered what my mentor had said to me. Time and money don't necessarily occupy the same space at the same time. People who have a lot of time don't have a lot of money. People who have a lot of money don't have a lot of time. And it just hit me. Boom. That's what he meant. That's what he meant. I had a meeting with Magic Johnson. Same thing. Magic looked at his watch a couple of times. Not so obvious as Ted did, but he did it. And I started thinking about that. So I went back and talked with my mentor, and I shared my experiences with him. I said, yeah, man, I got to meet Magic Johnson, and Magic was looking at his watch, and we had a great conversation. We even took a picture together. I got to meet Ted Leonsis. I set up a call with him, a meeting with him face to face. We talked. He was looking at his watch. He said, so I told you. He says, but here's what I want you to understand. You remember I said people who have time don't have a lot of money, and people who have money don't have a lot of time? He said, there is one exception. He said, people who have money and success can afford to buy themselves some time. So I'm saying to you, respect your time, because it's all that you have. And it's the one thing that you never have an opportunity to get back.
Mm-hmm.
if we could go back in time, Kris, I think I would go back 24 years ago and relaunch my clothing business and probably turn it into a $1 billion empire, knowing what I know now. But you can't do that, at least not in this day and time. So,
Right.
yeah. And the reason why I said that respecting your time coincides with giving yourself, number 12, giving yourself the permission to say yes and no, is that when you give yourself permission to say yes to the things that are going to add value to your business and your life, you're going to experience a better life and business. But if you miss out on those opportunities where you should have said yes, then you're going to reflect on that and you're not going to be able to get that time back. So when you're saying no to something, and when you're not saying no and you should, then you can't get that time back either. So give yourself that permission to say yes to the things that add value. Give yourself permission to say no to the things that you know that can position you for a place that you don't want to be. What are your thoughts?
I agree, and I agree, and I agree. Something I was speaking on recently is that as you grow, you will say no more than you say yes.
Yes.
And that is an open-ended statement for somebody to just take time and think about. You will say no, and you need to learn how to say no. And you need to learn how to say no without giving a reason why. No is a good enough answer all by itself. And as you become more and more serious about what you do, recognize that other people will be happy to waste your time that aren't valuing their own. And it's just something that I've learned over time, and I think it's important. But I think it's really interesting that you say you have to give yourself permission to say yes and no. Because, and it's funny, I had it written yes or no, but that's very different than yes and no. And knowing what to say yes to and knowing what to say no to are extremely important, because a friend of mine once said that, when you're in school, they give you the questions and you have to find the answers, but out in the real world, all the answers are there. We just have to know which questions to ask.
Oh, right.
And I really, really believe in that. And that's why everything that we spoke about today in these 12 steps, it has to do with not only creating a community, but being a part of one, and then learning to ask the questions, and then learning to ask the right questions, and then learning to take the right actions. Because I know everybody puts it out into the mystical universe that business is this thing that happens to the lucky people. It's not. It'll happen for everyone the same way. It's not a judge of character or anything like that. You just have to do the things that business people do that are successful to create a successful business. It's really that simple. And if you don't know, be humble enough and to know that you don't know, and then go find people that are willing to share it with you. Hopefully you'll see some, you're listening to our podcast. So, hopefully you'll see us as those people, but look for people that are holistic in their approach. Don't look for people that are one-offing this thing, or that are going to teach you special, whiz bam, technique of the day. Look for people that have stood the test of time. Look for people that study people that have stood the test of time, and look for people that have the results that you want, and then go do what they've done. It's really, really that simple. But these 12 steps, as much as they have to do with building a business, I truly believe that they have as much to do with building a life.
Yes, I agree.
Because for you and I, we both know this. We're so much into business that business is our life. And my friends are in business. And I mean, except for my spouse and my children, which they're in my business in some ways, sure. But except for them, almost every other person that I hang out with is in business, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I absolutely love it. But learning how to live your life in such a manner can help create the best version of yourself. And that's truly why I do what I do and why you do what you do. Money is an after effect. It's something that you fall into when you're doing when you're becoming the best version of yourself. And that should be the litmus test for everyone. Don't fall in love with the money, fall in love with who you become in the process of making it. So I just want to say thanks, man. I think this is an amazing list. And I know people probably won't go back and record it, but I certainly hope that they are listening to the recording, but I certainly hope that they've taken notes, you know?
Yes. Well, you can always go back, and thank you, bro. Thank you for your time today.
Yeah. Thank you.
I mean, I think this was really good. This is very important. Being the beginning of not only a new year, but a decade.
Yeah.
So I think these are things that are going to serve you well in this year and decade and beyond. And we hope it helps. And if you want to reach out to us, go to smartmarketingchat.com. It's going to take you to our Facebook Messenger, and you'll be able to get in touch with one of us or both of us. And a lot of times it'll be both of us. Yep. So we like hanging out with our clients and our prospects and just our listeners. Thank you so much. You can reach us anywhere. We're on iTunes now. Did I tell you that? We're on iTunes.
Yeah.
And we're on Spotify and a host of other podcast houses, as I call them. So you can Google us, the Smart Marketing Podcast, and listen in anytime you want, anywhere you want. Kris and I have these Google artificial intelligence devices now. So Kris, you know that you can ask your Google to that you tell it that you want to listen, and it will play it for us.
Yeah.
Cool. So tune in, hang out with us. If you need help, have questions. I'm Lonnie Robinson. This is Kris Whitehead, and we really appreciate your time.
Have a great one, everybody. Talk to you next time.
And take care.
All right, cool.